Good morning, everyone. It is 11 o'clock, and we are here to look at Reading Avenue, a curricula within Boardmaker Online, which is an avenue to successful reading for all. My name is Tina Voisey. I'm the Education Manager here at Tobii Dynavox. I'm a special educational needs teacher with over 25 years experience, and I am supported today by one of our account managers. His name is Cameron. He's going to be manning the chat. If you do have any questions, because we are a crowd that's exceeding over 40 today, I would ask that you chat in your questions at any time. If a thought occurs to you, put it in there. Cameron will answer as many as he can in the chat, and then I will stop occasionally to take those questions and answer them as a group. This session is due to end in 30 minutes at 11:30, and because we are a big crowd, I can't promise we'll get to everybody's questions, but we will do our best to answer as many as we can. If we don't get to your questions, there will be a follow-up email from this where you will get a copy of the PowerPoint, a link to this recording, and if there are any questions we didn't get to, we'll endeavor to answer them in the email. This is one of a course of a series of sessions on learning how to use Boardmaker Online. I'm seeing quite a few familiar names, so welcome. I know you've joined us and others. Today we are just focusing on Reading Avenue. It, of course, will overlap with elements like using the Boardmaker Student Center, creating interactive resources. So if you can make any of those sessions in the future, I would urge you to. If there's any that you have missed, we do have our local account managers. For those of you in Blackpool, that's going to be Joe Narayan Singh. I know we have some people joining us from Scotland. That's Debbie Breslin. Wherever you're calling us from, even if it's not within the UK, we could connect you with somebody who can help. This is an introductory session. We're only doing 30 minutes. So it's to give you a broad idea of what Reading Avenue is about and how you can implement it. But if you want to know more, if you'd like to go deeper, please get in touch. We're going to send you all the contact details because our team is here and ready to support you in using Reading Avenue and Boardmaker Online the best you can. Now, some of you may have heard about Boardmaker 7. We've been making a splash. If you're on Facebook, there's a really great video making this circuit right now where our PCS eggheads come to life. Those of you who are using Boardmaker Online, you're going to be transitioned right over to Boardmaker 7. It's going to be really seamless. And I just want to assure you that the training you're doing today and any other training that you've taken on Boardmaker 7, Boardmaker Online, pardon me, is going to help you with Boardmaker 7. So many of the elements are staying exactly the same, particularly Reading Avenue. So please keep coming to these webinars. The Boardmaker Online webinars are going to help you with Boardmaker 7. You can go to our website as well and find even more about Boardmaker 7. We do have a few webinars, including one today, where we're starting to introduce it and show people some sneak peeks. So we can talk about that in another session. Today, we're here to talk about Reading Avenue, and we're talking about it because as this paradigm shows you, there is a clear connection between speaking and listening, reading and writing. And of course, Tobii Dynavox is an AAC company. We help people speak who have difficulty doing so and giving them a means through augmented and alternative communication, or AAC. So as an AAC company, we have come to understand that helping our learners to increase their literacy skills. Learning how to read and write is going to help them become better speakers, whether it's verbally or using a AAC system. And we know that when we grow one skill, the other goes along with it, and that they're all really combined and develop recursively, meaning it's a constant spiral. The more I read, the better speaker I'm going to become, even in my mid-40s. The more I write, the better listener I'll be. The more I speak, the better writer. That all these things are growing together, and it's at any stage of life. So we felt it was really important to give our learners who are using AAC a mechanism to support the development of their reading and writing skills. The happy news is Reading Avenue isn't just for those who use AAC, but for any struggling reader or writer. And we at Toby Donavox believe, as David Yoder, who is the director of the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies out of the University of North Carolina, that no student is too anything to learn to read and write. Now, regardless of what level or what label they've been given, PMLD, complex communication needs, whether they're 4 or whether they're 44, we strongly believe, and we've looked at the evidence base, the research behind the fact that anyone can learn to read and write to some degree, to some level. There is a video that's on YouTube, which I'm going to give you a link to in the follow-up materials that come after the webinar. That is Karen Erickson, who is now the director of the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies. David Yoder is the emeritus director, so he's kind of retired. But Karen is sort of the rock star, if there is one, of looking at how we can teach learners with very profound and multiple learning difficulties how to read and write. And she gave a keynote speech at the International Society for AAC conference called Communication Matters in the UK. It was back in September 2019 at the University of Leeds. We recorded that and put that on YouTube, and she discusses why it is essential, why it is a critical skill for people who use AAC to learn how to read and write. And I totally recommend taking the 55 minutes it takes to watch this video, because it's very thought-provoking, and it really has is part of the basis for what we have developed Reading Avenue upon. So Reading Avenue is a literacy program designed to teach non-readers how to read. We know it works because it's evidence-based. Karen Erickson and the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies helped us to develop this. They were giving us advice and feedback along the way, and still do. We also know that it is a comprehensive program. So Reading Avenue is a program not just focusing on phonics or not just focusing on spelling, but focusing on a little bit of everything always. And we know, going right back to that paradigm at the beginning that I showed, that if we practice our reading and writing, our learning, our speaking and listening, these things are going to grow together. We also know that Reading Avenue is differentiated to 3 different levels. So depending where your learners are at, they can come to us with absolutely no skills or be on the way to reading and writing, and we're going to be able to support them with Reading Avenue. It's also accessible. We actually delayed the release of Reading Avenue by over a year to make sure that those who are using eye gaze or alternative access methods like switch scanning could use Reading Avenue successfully. And Reading Avenue is free with any Boardmaker online subscription, and that's going to stay the same for anyone who subscribes to Boardmaker 7. Reading Avenue will be there. It's no extra cost. It is part of the package. So Reading Avenue is a curriculum that's found within this Boardmaker online tool, the tool that many of you have been using to develop learning resources and communication supports, to put the visuals around your classroom and support positive behavior. Well, then you get the curriculum alongside this, both of which, the ready-made stuff as well as the stuff that you have created within Boardmaker Online, can be assigned to our learners through the Student Center. And this is a way that they can access the work you've created or the curriculum, whether they're in the same classroom as you or across town at home or across the world. They can get to the Student Center via website or app, and then access all the resources either you've made or have assigned from Reading Avenue using any type of access method. Reading Avenue comes with 120 books, over 1,000 activities. We're going to take a look at the lesson plans and the communication supports that we provide. It is mainly an interactive resource, but there are print elements to it, and it can collect data so we can see how our students are performing along the way. At the very beginning of using Reading Avenue, we sit down with the Avenue selection tool. So this is found within Boardmaker Online, and we answer 5 questions about our learner. So we go across and answer each of these rows. And we're going to be asking about the student's experience with alphabet and letters, about their experience with sounds and phonics, with their experience of the written word and decoding, about reading and writing. And you can see over on the left-hand side, it really starts with learners who have no knowledge, no experience, are very beginning beginners. And it moves up to those who have some experience. They can identify some letters, they know some sounds. And from there, after we answer these 5 questions, Reading Avenue is going to make a suggestion as to where you start with your learner. And I'm going to explain that a little bit further. If it says that your learner is on Avenue A, we're looking at learners who are really at an exploratory or play-based level. So this is for our very beginning beginners, giving them the experience of interacting with letters, with sounds, engaging in reading and writing activities. And then as they move up to Avenue B, they're now transitioning from still working in a play-based environment to developing some independent skills. As they go further on to Avenue C, these are learners who are now demonstrating some independent skills, but still need some guidance and support along the way. Learners do not have to come to us on Avenue A and work their way through. They can be placed on whichever avenue is right for them. Also, you know your learner best. If Reading Avenue suggests Avenue B, but you feel that maybe, okay, Avenue B for reading, but Avenue A for writing, then you can always do as you feel best and chop and change. And I'll explain that as we go through. Once we decide what avenue we start our learner on, then we decide what topic we want to choose for them. And you can choose any of these. We suggest finding the topic that works for your learner or works within the learning environment. So right now, my daughter is crazy about puppies. So animals would be a great place for her to start because I want to get her hooked and engaged in using the books and the activities that Reading Avenue um, provides. But maybe in my classroom in September, we're going to be talking about weather as part of our science. So I'd like to hook to that. So whatever works for you and your learners, we do not suggest which topic to start from. And then within all these avenues, within all of these topics, we are going to give comprehensive instruction. We are going to be working on alphabet and phonological awareness. We are going to be working on shared, guided, and independent reading activities. We are going to have opportunities to engage in shared and independent writing. And there's lots of opportunities to really find out what our learner is thinking, the comprehension part. And of course, we include communication supports for that because for so many of our learners, they're not able to tell us what they're thinking. So we need to give them the opportunities with aided language or communication supports. So here's just a chart that shows you all the different types of activities we give throughout the avenues. You'll see guided, shared, and independent reading happen throughout all 3 avenues. And there's also lots of opportunities for writing throughout all 3 avenues. And then the activities that look at alphabet, phonics, and spelling are really going to vary as we work from exploratory and play-based to developing independent skills. And I'm going to give you some samples of all of this. And of course, you can go into your Boardmaker online account or trial at any time and look through these more yourself. So at the basis of this is a lesson plan. We have a lesson guide that is repetitive. It provides repetition with variety. And we, within every theme, are going to have 5 books. So right now you can see I'm on Avenue A. I'm in the theme of animals. These are the target sounds and word endings that we're going to focus on within this avenue, within this theme. And then here is the first book that I'm going to introduce and work with. And then I'll explain the instructional pattern. We have 5 books for Avenue A, animals, 5 books for Avenue B, 5 books for Avenue C, for all of the different themes that I talked about earlier. We have lots of opportunity to engage in shared, guided, and independent reading. The books are the same throughout all experiences. We just kind of change the supports around them. So if somebody chooses to read on their own or have an independent reading opportunity, then they're going to go through the book, read it on their own, and be able to press the read button if they want the words read out to them. If they're engaging in a shared reading activity, then they're going to choose to read it with an adult. And for us knowledgeable others or adults, we have little prompts to remind us to stop on each page and engage the learner in what we're seeing. Not quiz them on the content, how many legs does a crab have, how many eyes do you see, but more engage them and help them make connections with their thoughts and what they're going to say about this page and the printed words that they're seeing on within the book. So it may stop and say, oh, I've seen a crab before. Have you ever seen a crab? They can snap at you, snap, 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 watch out. And just making some type of reference and open-ended open-ended comment to then hopefully help our learners engage and with the book and the content that we're looking at. We're then from there going to, move on to explaining the different levels of books. So in Avenue A, the books are very language rich because this is our exploratory phase. We're at a play-based level here. So we're not expecting our learners to read these books independently. We are reading it to them and engaging them within a shared reading activity and making lots of comments and providing lots of opportunities to engage with the words that are on the page, as well as the words that we want to speak and the things that we're thinking about. Then in Avenue B, we're going to see the language really dipping down because this is where we are expecting some learners to identify some letters, some sounds, and maybe even a few words. In Avenue C, the language dips up again because here we're really exhibiting some independent skills and they may be able to read most of the words on the page, of course, with some support for some of the trickier ones. Now, within our instructional routine, we always start with a guided reading activity. So this is a way to give our learners the opportunity to engage with the book repetitiously, but with variety. So we are going to read the same book 3 different times for 3 different reasons using an anchor, read, apply approach. And we see that within the lesson plan. So here again, Avenue A in Animals, we're looking at book 1, and we're going to read that book for the first time. It's called All Black and White, about black and white animals, to ask our learners to read the story to find out which of the animals they've seen previously. So we're going to engage in an anchor activity where they're going to tell us what animals they've seen at the zoo or around their house that are black and white, and then they're going to read the story to tell us which animals they have seen are also in the book. So that's the first day we read it. The second time we read it, we're going to read the same exact book, but this time we are going to read the story to decide which black and white animals we like best. So that's day 2. And then on day 3, we're going to read the book for a third time. But this time we're going to read the book to decide whether we think zebras are white and black or black and white. So let me show you how guided reading works. First, we introduce the story. So Nancy, we're going to read the book All Black and White. So I want you to think about some of the black and white animals that you've seen. Okay, Nancy, so here's our anchor. Tell me, which animals have you seen? And as you can see, we're using symbols here to support communication. We're not worried about Nancy reading these words. We're worried about Nancy telling us about which animals she's seen and making a connection with the content of this book. So Nancy might tell me she's seen a black and white cat because they have a black and white cat at home. And when she went to the zoo, she saw a black and white penguin. So we discuss which animals Nancy's seen that are black and white. Okay, Nancy, now you told me you saw a penguin and a cat. Let's read this book to find out which of the animals you've seen are also in the book. And notice now, no symbol support above the words, because this is where we start to make connections to the words that they have just spoken to me. Kitten, cat, and penguin, and making the connections to what we're seeing on the page. So now we go through and we read this book, all black and white. And we're going to see about seals and zebras and pandas and possibly a kitten and possibly a penguin. So we go through and read these books, stopping to comment on each page and focusing on specific words and helping to make connections. And then at the end, we go, okay, Nancy, now you told me at the beginning that you saw a cat and a penguin. So can you remember which of those animals have you seen are also in the book? And then she can tell me penguin. Now, of course, this is the answer part. So anchor, read, and then now the apply or answer part. In Avenue B and C, these are going to become much harder. In Avenue A, we're at our exploratory and play-based level. So they're quite open-ended, and we try to keep it really, really positive. Throughout the reading of these books, we always have access to this talk button to help facilitate communication, to help Nancy engage with what's on the page, and prompt us to start with conversation. This can be for somebody who's verbal or nonverbal. So when I'm looking at this book about planets, I can tell you, you know what? I know something, and it's really, really cool. And then I can click on symbols to say, I know that there are red planets up in space. So also wonderful for me to be able to model as the knowledgeable other. Now, these phrases stay the same across all 120 books we give you in Reading Avenue. And then the symbols will reflect the content of the books that we're reading. So I'm going to stop for a second and see if there's any questions, Cam, that I need to answer.
No questions in the chat window.
Excellent. Okay, if you think of any questions, just chat them in and we'll answer them as we go along. So then from our guided reading, we then have different activities which are going to focus on specific target sounds as well as word endings. So we'll see that there are a number of different activities that we provide you in Reading Avenue that can go after the guided reading experience. So a sample in Avenue A is having different onset sounds, so different beginning of words that we can play with and put in front of different word endings. And right here, this experience is going to be fail-proof. Whatever I choose, I'm making a word. I then get to see that word, hear that word, and experiencing it being read out into a sentence. So that's an Avenue A. Avenue B, I've got, again, onset sounds with different word endings. And here I can do the same thing. I can play with these different words and I can see what happens when I put different sounds in front of different word endings. But then because I'm starting to edge towards developing independent skills, the next step is I start to sort these. Real words from silly words, and also words that rhyme. So we take you down a little bit further to develop those independent skills. In Avenue C, we have to read this sentence, and there's one highlighted word and then a clear wrong or right answer, as we have to find the word that rhymes. So this is just an example. We have a number of different activity types, but it gives you some idea of the different avenues and how we move along and the type of ways we present content. Now we work on what we call rhymes or word endings, R-I-M-E-S. This is not an American spelling. Rhymes are actually word endings like ack and ale and op and it and op. Okay, and we focus on 37 of them that were defined by Wiley and Durrell to engage our learners in what's called analogy-based decoding, which is kind of a fancy word for teaching our learners to identify patterns. So think about Dr. Seuss. And this was so true of my daughter when she was about 3-4 years old. She was in nursery and was learning some onset sounds. They were doing phonetics, and she would come home and have lots of silly songs she would sing about ants running up her arm and working on those onset sounds. And then she had an older brother who was a couple of years ahead of her and really starting to read. And of course, we had lots of Dr. Seuss in the house. So things like Hop on Pop. Molly was able to take those onset sounds that she was introduced to at nursery, and then seeing me read these very repetitive books that had this rhyme at the basis of it: hop on pop, stop, top, cop, mop, and lots of other words. And she was able to figure out, oh, I'm seeing this word ending, and I know some of those onsets, and now I can figure out how to code. I've got this pattern down, and I can identify it and use these two skills together. When we work on these 37 common rhymes defined by Wiley and Durrell, we are unlocking the key to decoding over 500 words. So it's a really powerful tool for our learners, steeped in an evidence-based, and that's why we use it in Reading Avenue. So moving on from alphabet, letter, and phonological awareness, we provide provide plenty of opportunities for writing. We start maybe with some shared writing activities. So here we see something we call chart writing, where what we're trying to do is help our learners make connections with the words that they're hearing, the words that they're speaking, and the words that they'll be writing. So we go back to our animals theme, and Nancy, we are going to write a book about how animals move. So Nancy, I want you to tell me, what do you think are ways animals can move? Again, symbols are here because we want Nancy to tell us what she thinks. It's not about decoding these words. We don't have symbols above these because maybe she is starting to get some of these sounds in the word can. And we go through and we get Nancy to tell us the thoughts in her head about how animals can move. And we repeat this, and Nancy tells us animals can hop, they can crawl, they can inch. And at the end, we then read the book that Nancy helped us write. So we say, remember, you told me how you thought animals can move. Let's read this book you just helped me write. Animals can hop. And it creates a book from the answers that Nancy has provided. So that's making those connections between the words that we're hearing and the words we're saying to the words we're writing. From those shared writing opportunities, we then move on to independent writing opportunities, where Nancy can engage in writing for a purpose, telling us what she thinks about puppies. So puppies are, and again, some symbol support to help her tell us her thoughts about puppies, but then always giving her access to all the letters so she can start to put those letters of sounds, those onset sounds and words together, and start to write independently and improve her spelling skills. We have aligned all of these activities to the national curriculum. So whether you're in England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, or Wales, you can find supports to help you link the activities we've provided in Reading Avenue to the standards that you're teaching to. And all of these can be applied into the Boardmaker Student Center so your students can access them, whether it's on the interactive whiteboard in your classroom or when they're sitting at home on a computer or using it on an iPad or an AAC system. I am going to send you in the follow-up a copy of this PowerPoint with links so that you can work through creating a student and assigning activities to them within Reading Avenue, or come to one of our webinars about using the Boardmaker Student Center and we can take you through that. What I'm going to do with the 2 minutes I have left is go into Reading Avenue in Boardmaker Online and show you where this is found. Whilst I'm transitioning over, are there any questions, Cam, that I need to answer?
There was one question just asking, does the system progress the student to next avenue automatically, or do you need
It
to
does
change it?
not, no. What I would that's a really good question. What I would suggest, and I'm going into curriculum right up here, and I'll show you where the avenue selector is. Here's Reading Avenue, and go to the UK. And then here are all my different units. At the top of any unit, you will find the Avenue selection tool. You can press play right here and go through it. I would, as a teacher, probably do this rather systematically, maybe at the very beginning of my intervention, and then after we've worked through a unit or two, because you can print these out. So it's a wonderful record of achievement to show maybe students have moved from a few more dots on this side to a few more dots on that side, even if it keeps them at Avenue A. And we don't want to make a student go through every single different unit before they move on. So at any time, they might just all of a sudden have just that aha moment and quickly move from A to B, so you can move them on yourself. There's really no prerequisite. So we don't move you on automatically, but just check in with the Avenue selection tool and use your gut when you think it's time to move somebody up. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, I know, that's great. Thank you, Tina. And that was all of the questions I had.
Okay, great. Well, I'm on the dot at 11:30. I'm just going to take one more moment to show you here. We can go to any of these sections, and we've done the Avenue selection tool. We know what avenue that the learner's on. And so I opened the avenue it's suggested, and here you can see the 5 different books. The resources at the top is where I'm going to find a letter home to parents. I can print that out, let them know what we're doing at school, as well as my quick lesson guide that I showed you in the PowerPoint. So this is my instructional routine. Now we know not every learner is going to be able to sit down and work through all 3 activities in a 20-minute literacy time. Certainly the learners that I worked with, this could take us a week to get through. So we have given you these nice little visuals that you can print off to help keep track, because this might happen on Monday afternoon, and then we have to repeat it again on Tuesday on Tuesday morning before Tuesday afternoon we do the onset rhyme work, and so on and so forth. And we have a blank so that you can add any extension activities you might be doing in your learning environment. Then from there we go on to that first book, and at the top you will see activity sets. This is where we have bundled, if you click into that, an instructional routine. So here's my guided reading and my 2 activities. These are going to match this, which is going to match this. So all I have to do is assign that entire thing to a learner. So let me assign it to Lucy here. And that entire activity set is going to be assigned to her. So when she goes in to her student center, so let me just literacy, whether it's through our app or through the website, that activity I just assigned to her will appear. It'll have the guided reading and the 2 phonics or writing activities that are to follow it as defined in the instructional routine. So here's that getting around, and there are her 3 different activities. Now, as I said before, you know your learner best. So if you feel actually, you know what, Nancy is a B for reading, but an A for writing, we also give you, just below those activity sets, all of the activities loosely. So you don't have to give her all 3. You might give her the guided reading and the phonics from B, and then come down to level A and say, actually, I want to give her some of the sight word sentences from Avenue A. And that's absolutely fine. I've been working with Reading Avenue now since September, and I've worked with lots of different schools. Some have absolutely no idea where to begin when it comes to literacy instruction for some of their more complex learners, and they are following Reading Avenue to a T, and that's absolutely fine. Others have got literacy instruction down pat. They're just looking for a little bit of intervention to help supplement some of the other stuff they're doing, and they're picking and choosing what they need from Reading Avenue, and that's fine too. So however Reading Avenue is going to support you and your learners, please go ahead and use it that way. All right, our time is up. I'm sorry I've kept you 4 minutes over. I'm in no rush to leave, but I am going to end the recording now. If anybody wants to stick around and ask some more questions or see things in more details, I'm happy to do so. But do remember, in the follow-up, we are going to send you information on more webinars and also how to get in touch with your account manager so you can spend time learning about the Student Center or dive even deeper with Reading Avenue. All right, well, thank you very much for your time and attention. Do please feel free to stick on if you have some questions. Otherwise, I hope to see you again in a future webinar. Thanks very much.